couple of days ago, NASA made a really weird announcement. That's item number 4. They decided, for no given reason, they haven't told us what's going on at all. Up until then, everything seemed to be according to Hoyle, meaning according to plan. But they suddenly put a delay of several days on their planned first flight. But they did not give anyone a reason. So, what could be going on? Well, same time that all this happened, Reddit, as you know, because NASA's not been doing live press conferences of the Perseverance activities. I mean, they have really done zero for weeks, and they published very few new press images, meaning, images that have been vetted by the science teams, and somebody writes a kind of committee caption, and is put out there for the mainstream press to post on blogs or on the evening news or in the New York Times, whatever. They're doing none of that. I mean, really, the pipeline of information coming out of the Percy mission has been reduced to almost zero. So in the vacuum created in terms of public interest all over the world in the Perseverance mission, a lot of private sites, a lot of blogs, a lot of chat rooms, whatever, haven't opened up Mars rooms or Perseverance rooms, whatever, and Reddit has a whole section devoted to following the Perseverance mission. I frequent those as a spectator because a lot of interesting breakthroughs come out of these citizen-scientist collaborations. And so what I'm going to talk about in item number 5 is exactly one of those. A guy named Merrick Tulsi, T-U-S-L, Tuls. I think he's in Czechoslovakia. I mean, he is a genius with a computer. Because if you click on the YouTube video in number 5, you will see the most extraordinary compilation of the NASA landing video frames, both from the black and white and from the color. And if you look at number 6, this I put up this afternoon to show what the process was like. He composited in the correct geometric sequence all of those black and white images showing the curvature of Mars as Perseverance was descending toward the landing site on the parachute. And then, that's number 7, he was able to convolve into his algorithm the color from the, it's not a GoPro camera, but I keep using the term GoPro like a Kleenex, a kind of an off-the-shelf sports camera that was modified by NASA to survive the descent and landing on Mars. And that gave us gorgeous color views of the descent. Anyway, he put these two together and produced item number 8 in my section, which is a stunning panorama of Mars and Jezero crater like you were sitting suspended about 7 miles above the planet, and look at that astonishing color view. To be very honest, I do not know how he got from step 7 to figure number 8 in my sequence of radio pictures images, because I don't think there's enough information in number 7. But unless he's a secret NASA plant under a pseudonym as a way of slipping the world real data on what exists on Mars, because if you blow that up and then you take it into an imaging program and you work with it, you make enlargements of the horizon, you will see the most stunning 180-degree panorama of the glass of the Jezero dome, shot from the top of the dome from about 7 miles as Perseverance was descending on the parachute. And it's incredibly meticulously accurate and conforms to all of the other bits and pieces of circumstantial evidence we've been accruing from the NASA data downlinks from Perseverance over the last several weeks, making me strongly suspect that Mr. Tuls is not his real name. He may not even be from Czechoslovakia. It could be a pseudonym, a guy pretending to be an amateur who is frankly deep inside the JPL complex, because the information is so congruent, so in sync with everything else we know about the dome. Just look and zoom in and work with it in your own imaging programs, and you'll see the stunning iridescent glass of, concentric rings of this dome below the spacecraft as the spacecraft was descending. Well, that happened, I think, on Monday or Tuesday. I think it was Monday or Tuesday. On the next day, something very weird came out of the JPL Raw Images Perseverance page. That's number 9. Because if you click on number 9, that will show you a sudden series of literally hundreds of frames that were posted without comment to the JPL Raw Images webpage, and each of them, to varying degrees, looked like Perseverance had suddenly gone stark raving mad and decided to shoot pictures either of, black cats during an eclipse at midnight or bed sheets laid out in the bright sun. In other words, these images appeared to be blank frames, and they go on for page after page after page after page. And I took one look and I thought, oh my God, so that's what they're doing. Because they use the Mastcam Z, which is the highest resolution, most sophisticated, most color balanced of all the 25 or so cameras on the Perseverance mission. And it turns out what they were doing is shooting in successive frames hundreds of pictures of the Mastcam looking up and photographing literally the entire sky. Now, I haven't had time to go and really check, but I kind of follow these things pretty closely, and I do not remember any time in NASA's history, except maybe way back in the extended mission of Viking, and there they were limited to how far up the camera on Viking, the two cameras, could look, because they were totally different kind of cameras than we have on spacecraft today, rolling around on the surface of Mars. Anyway, I don't remember in any of the previous missions, Pathfinder, Sojourner, which is part of Pathfinder, the two other rovers, Spirit and Opportunity, or the Curiosity rover, I don't remember anybody shooting the entire sky. Why? Because the sky changes. Because there are clouds on Mars. There's different dust. And if you're going to take a kind of a snapshot of the whole sky, you can't do it as a snapshot. It's got to be over 100, maybe almost 200 individual frames, which then, of course, are very high resolution. They're in multiple colors, so they all have to be downlinked through this tiny pipeline of the bandwidth limitation of transmitting through various satellites to come over, like Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter, the European Space Gas Explorer, or there's another mission, I forget which one it is. Anyway, those opportunities are few and far between, and the bandwidth is limited. So why would you take an all-sky information overload of the entire Jezero crater sky and do it over a month into the mission and not tell anybody that that's what you were going to do? Answer? I mean, this really is almost inescapable, because it seemed to us on the team, we're going to hear tonight from various members of the Enterprise Imaging team, it seemed to us as a general consensus that somebody inside JPL, one of the many honest folks, remember, I've always said that 90% of NASA is honest, that the folks that have been lying to us and stealing data and hiding information and manipulating, the public are few and far between. They're at the upper level of management. The rank and file are basically clueless because they do not suspect the people above them would do anything but tell them the truth. So what I think is happening is that one or more of those people who, remember when you used to get Playboy in a brown paper wrapper because getting Playboy was considered socially impolite, if not downright frowned upon? Well, it's like when you're on a radio show that's all over the world and accessible on anybody's internet, you can listen in the middle of the night and be in NASA, and no one knows you're listening to Hoagland and company. And that's what I think happened. And one or more of those people, in terms of good science, must have said to someone at some level of technical competence, for God's sake, if this is right, this could destroy our rover. Why? Because if you're sitting under a dome made of very, very ancient glass that's been attacked by the elements for tens or maybe hundreds of thousands of years, what are the odds that a piece of that glass will fall out of the sky and fall directly on your $2.7 billion rover? And that's the end of the mission. Just like Surveyor 4, it would suddenly, instantly, just go away. Even under Martian gravity, if something falls 7 miles, it's going to cause a very, very big noise. So, are they secretly, is JPL, the folks running the Perseverance mission, are they secretly taking photographs of the inside of the dome to basically, out of self-preservation, find out what the hazards of being, Perseverance under glass might be? I think that's not a bad bet. So go to item 10A. This is a composite I made. Click on it. It's very, very large. We might want to reduce the size Kintia so when you enlarge it, it's just the width of the frame of the page. But this is a raw frame. I could tell it was color because it had that kind of weird butterscotch tinge that all the NASA images of the surface of Mars for decades have had to have. Because, of course, they're coloring up the real blue skies, the real colors of the landscape, the real everything, in putting out this butterscotch nonsense as if that's the real Mars. Side by side with it, and then 10B is the actual object that it turned out on that particular frame they were photographing with this incredibly competent and sophisticated Mastcam Z system. Look at all of that stunning, colorful, extraordinarily geometric, and incredibly dome-like detail on a frame that, if you look at it in the raw, it looks like a close-up of a soup of butterscotch pudding. Needless to say, we were, as Sherlock would have said, the game's afoot. Because we rapidly, I had Ron, Gerbron, get roped into this, and we went through and he matched the other black and white blank frames that turn out to be individual filtered images relayed to Earth in black and white. And then what you do is you put the three colors together and you can synthesize false color. Even though we can't see ultraviolet or infrared, you can put it into the visible so you see what the differences are, what the geometry is. And if you had any ground truth, you might even be able to tell the material you were looking at. I mean, we know it's glass, but is it glass that's doped with various metals for various practical utilitarian reasons, like electrical conductivity or ultraviolet screening or enhanced tensile strength, or any one of a number of things. So if you look at 11 and 12A and 12B, and 12B has the frame numbers that Ron used to assemble this amazingly geometric looking dome, it turns out that they were not only moving the camera and taking pictures of the whole dome in red, green, and blue, they were also moving the camera and taking pictures in all the other 11 filters that are on the mass cam on the Perseverance spacecraft. I mean, talk about doing an amazing job of looking at the dome from the inside and not telling anyone, I mean anyone outside of NASA, what you were doing. It boggles the mind that we have a public space agency that seems to be so afraid of its citizens, or afraid of what its citizens might do, that they're carrying out a major aspect of the Perseverance mission kind of ad hoc, kind of suddenly, full born, like Athena from the head of Zeus, and they're not telling anybody what they're doing. Item number 13, that's an image, a wide-angle image, when the camera was pointed toward the apex, toward the very top of the dome. I've deliberately de-resed it so you can see the stunning concentric hexagonal geometry, folks. It's tetrahedral. It's so Martian. And finally, I now know why Perseverance, I believe I know why Perseverance flight has been postponed. If you can imagine this little helicopter with its 3,000 RPM rotors and the screaming sound it will make, what if that sound, even in the, as we're told, thin Martian atmosphere, what if that sound actually vibrates loose some pieces of the dome and they come crashing down on Perseverance? Well, hold that thought. There's so much more, because when we come back, we're going to be talking to the Enterprise Mission Imaging Team. But our segue music tonight is James Taylor, Fire and Rain, which has a stunningly important message for what we think occurred on Mars. See if you can find it. You're on the other side of midnight. My name is Richard C. Hoagland.
I walked out this morning and I wrote down this song. I just can't remember who to send it to. I've seen fire and I've seen rain. I've seen sunny days that I thought would never end. I've seen lonely times when I could not find a friend. But I always thought that I'd see you. So look down upon me, Jesus. You gotta help me make a stand. You just got to see me through another day. My body's aching and my time is at hand. I won't make it any other way. Whoa, I've seen fire and I've seen rain. Seen sunny days that I thought would never end. I've seen lonely times when I could not find a friend. But I always thought that I'd see you. My back turned towards the sun. Lord knows when the cold wind blows, it'll turn your head around. Well, there's hours of time on the telephone line to talk about things to come. Sweet dreams and flying machines in pieces on the ground. Whoa, I've seen fire and I've seen rain. Seen sunny days that I thought would never end. I've seen lonely times when I could not find a friend. But I always thought that I'd see you, baby, one more time again now. Thought I'd see you one more time again. There's just a few
Well, I think you're looking with this great reset, you're looking at Mr. Globaloney's efforts to move everybody into a cashless society, which, you know, like it or not, that's a one-way mirror, folks. Because at that point, you're not dealing with a currency, you're dealing with a corporate coupon that they can adjust the value of at the push of a button, depending on whether or not you're good little boys and girls. And if you're getting into a system where all of the infrastructure of financial clearing is in the hands of the bankers, that's not a system you want to go into. You look at the West, and more importantly, you look at what some people call the Anglosphere, the Western powers that are English-speaking. The United Kingdom, Canada, United States, and so on. I do think it's the case there. They're using a health crisis really to drive a political agenda. And the health crisis itself is largely blown way, way out of proportion to what's actually the case. If you look at what Mr. Globaloney is up to, they are recreating slavery. And the thing that is unique about slavery is they now have the means of perfecting the capital, because now they can literally implant your body with the means to track you. It's not going to go away overnight, but there are already I think some hopeful signs of cracks beginning to appear in the edifice. This is Joseph P. Farrell, and for all the news the media doesn't like you to hear, tune in to the other side of the news.
Welcome back, everyone, to the other side of midnight for this Saturday night, April 3rd, 2021. Let me introduce my guests, okay, because I went on a little longer than I thought I'd be going, but I needed to set, as the lawyers say, foundation, and not in any particular order. We've got Keith Morgan, who, as you know, worked with Ted Koppel for decades after decades, and we are so lucky to have him. I had major computer problems this afternoon and this evening getting ready for the show, and he helped me out, and we solved them. And again, hats off to Keith. Without Keith, and Cynthia, of course, the show would not be on the air. And I am thanking my lucky stars every time I end up doing something that actually works on the show. Ron Gerbron is with us. He is our uncredentialed polymath who actually knows a great deal about image processing. He's going to, in a moment, describe to you what JPL is doing and what we did to deconvolve what they're doing, so we get a chance to look over their shoulder and go, oh my God, you gotta be kidding. I mean, how can anybody, any engineer, any honest scientist in JPL take a look at those images and think that this normal mission is gonna proceed looking for little teeny tiny microbes in the soil? I mean, come on. Okay, Andrew Currie. Andrew is our resident artist. He works for television and movies and does storyboards. I mean, he really does wonderful storyboards, as you're going to see. Because, of course, again, I, maxed him out, and I said, come on, we need storyboards of what this really, 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 really looks like. And he came through. I'll tell you what, I'm going to save the rest of the crew. Ruggero's here. Ruggero is our English participant, another one, in addition to Bob Harrison. He is he's a professional with a BSc honors degree in how do you say that? Podiatric medicine, and he found and verified the existence of this amazing fossil, this femur-looking bone that NASA says with a straight face, oh, it's just the wind carving rocks. Yeah, sure. Absolutely sure. Okay, I don't think I forgot anybody. We're going to be joined by Bob and Tim Saunders in the last hour tonight. They have other professional commitments and could not be with us for the whole show. So without further ado, let me open the line here. Ron, tell them what magic you created to unveil what NASA is really doing, and just not kind of getting around as usual to telling all the rest of us.
Okay. I feel a little bit like I'm following up on a sales pitch at a furniture store. There's only so much that is describable, but the idea is that they've been taking a bunch of images of said sky, which has a dome in the way of their view of the stars, and each of those is through separate filters. They have rather sadly not made it clear what filter is on what image. The only clue that I see in those rather long Perseverance file names is that in the fourth group of numbers, there's a couple of letters in there. And I think, for instance, one of the ones in there, there's a BY, and I think that stands for black and yellow, which implies that they're using some sort of four-color channel separation for their imaging. But I don't know. That's just, there's a whole descriptive page on how to read them, and it doesn't have accurate information about that. So they're still keeping us in the weeds. Anyway,
Oh,
I realize
how special. Gosh, NASA, the most transparent agency ever created by the U.S. government, and they're not giving scientists out here in the great unwashed field of participants and observers the clues with how to actually read the data. That can't be the NASA
Well,
I know, Ron. You've got to be mistaken. Sorry.
well, yeah, anyway, it's, yeah. I think they are getting what they are after, which is that, you know, the whole purpose of having all those different filters is not just so that you can print up 7-color Swiss calendars to hang over the desk. It is in order to read other wavelengths that perhaps our normal assumption as to what our optical spectrum is don't apply. So like Richard mentioned, they go into the infrared, they go up into the ultraviolet, and I think that's what's at work. So they can tell, you know, it's like for them it's binary. Is there something there or is there not? But the images unprocessed, those root images look rather less than special.
Okay, I'm waiting for the rest. Tell you what, tonight we had so many images. Cynthia created a separate page, so if you scroll up and down the main image page for Radio Pictures, you won't find Ron's stuff. If you click on Ron's items and your fast links, it takes you to his page. Why don't you regale us with a few of the precedents that we found? Because, you know, Ron, as ever the good historian and researcher, said, wait a minute. This looks familiar. I've seen this somewhere before. So again, where did you find the earliest example of apparently NASA quietly, secretly photographing from the inside of a Martian dome? Ron, did we lose you?
Hello.
There you are.
Okay, sorry about that. It just disappeared.
Of course.
I was about to say something. Yeah, well, I was about to say something nice about the evil ones. Like I said, what they're getting is, you know, either or. Does this filter show us something or not? And but in order to see it, to verify that there was some color information in those frames, that they weren't just, you know, cleaning the lens or something. I don't know what you would do it for. I was playing with the saturation in the images. You posit that there's some in there, and it, from some other research I've done, the saturation channel of, well, I guess that doesn't need explanation, within an image carries a lot of information about the contents. it's not enough to reconstruct the whole image, but it tells you if there's something there or not. So I just contrast enhanced the images and put them together in different assortments until I got something that showed a configuration that matched what we see in the other dome pictures. And so that's why all the rainbows. You know, it's not, that's not really the colors. That's just an indication that there is information in there, and it's consistent. And on that
wait. There is no such, if you're looking at the ultraviolet or infrared, there's no such thing as real color anyway. So it's all just arbitrarily, you know, composing. The kind of logical way would be to make the short wavelengths like ultraviolet bluish and the longer wavelengths like infrared reddish to kind of match, you know, but you really don't have to. What you really want to do is choose false colors that bring out the detail. And as you can see, going back to my images, the detail is stunning. Structural, geometry, you know, hiding a sky that should not, I mean, literally, this cannot exist, folks. Do you understand how historic this is? The Enterprise mission discovers there's a dome over this amazing crater called Jezero on Mars. And then a month into the discussion, NASA suddenly, for no better reason than maybe they just thought of it, take a whole bunch of secret pictures to confirm the dome. When you look at the pictures, how any scientist, any engineer, any NASA manager, how the new administrator of NASA himself, Bill Nelson, reporting directly to the president, how anybody can look at this and say, oh my God, this is evidence of a stunning super civilization on the planet Mars, absolutely boggles the mind. So what's going to be really exciting is over the next several weeks to see how NASA either gets out from under this, which I don't think they can, continues to hide it, which is why we're doing the show tonight, because all you folks all over the world, you need to start sending your emails to NASA, come clean, come clean. Not the honest folks, but the dishonest folks. I want to clearly separate that we have allies inside who obviously listened to what we had laid out as evidence, and they did the scientific thing, and they went looking, and now